The Super Bowl is here, and the 56th Lombardi Trophy is ready to be handed out. The Los Angeles Rams will look to defend their home turf against the AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals.
Welcome back, fantasy football fans. This is Fantasy Football in 5, and we are coming back at you. And this time we are on YouTube, as you can see here. But for all of you who have been listening to us all season long on our podcast, we will be releasing a podcast this weekend, or this week, excuse me, talking about the Super Bowl, our predictions, and everything you need to know about that. But first things first, we're going to be talking a little bit about the entirety of the Super Bowl, how we got here, why it's important. And not only that, but mainly for all of those football fans who may be new, okay? Let's just say coming into the Super Bowl weekend, you don't really know a whole lot about the Super Bowl, or maybe, this is your first Super Bowl that you're going to be watching, and you're going to a Super Bowl party and you don't want to look dumb and you don't want to, be out of, I would say the best way to put it is out of the loop. Exactly. Yes. You don't want to be the one person who doesn't know what they're talking about or what they're watching. So we're going to give you some tips and tricks as to how to sound really smart. And then on top of that, also what you need to look for while watching the football game. So Parker, what is the Super Bowl and how did we get here?
Well, simply put, the Super Bowl is the matchup of the two best teams in football. The AFC is represented by the Bengals this year, and the NFC by the Los Angeles Rams. And those two teams won 3 games in the playoffs each to get to where we are right now. And coincidentally, this year, the Super Bowl is being played at the Rams' home stadium, SoFi Stadium in California. So they have home field advantage, and that's incredibly important throughout the playoffs, and I guess any game in general. But the Super Bowl itself, Taylor, this is the most important American sporting event that we have each year. Millions of people will gather. We don't want you to be left out. Consider this your fantasy football for dummies.
Yeah, pretty much. And so to start this thing out, I want to explain one thing. These two teams went through a grueling season to get to this point, and they've had to have so many different things fall their way. It wasn't just that they were a good team, but they showed up when things were really tough and when it mattered most. And we saw that a lot throughout the playoffs here. And I guess the number one thing for me to ask you, Parker, is what do you think that the biggest takeaway is in terms of what made these teams get to this point, other than winning the couple of playoff games, what exactly, why are these two teams here versus any of the other teams in the NFL?
Well, football's a team sport. And with that team sport comes staying healthy as a team. The Bengals were certainly not healthy during the playoff. Their defensive front, with the 4 guys on the defensive line, were in and out with injuries, but they came together when it mattered. The Rams, they have some offensive superstars on that team. No disrespect to the Bengals, they do as well. But these teams just played their best football when it mattered. They beat division rivals. They beat conference foes. So that's how we got here, Rams and Bengals. And I think it's time to close the book on what the Super Bowl is. Let's move on to our next spot. So Taylor, there's a lot more that goes on besides the actual football. Every Super Bowl has a halftime show, some good, some terrible. Why is the halftime show so great for people who don't watch football?
So one of the things is it's essentially like if you're watching it on TV, it's one of the only times when you can essentially get an opportunity to watch a live concert without paying for it. Okay. So that's the first thing. And then even though they are pretty short, I think they're only about 15 minutes max. 15, 20 minutes. Yeah. But the thing is, it's still a little bit of an exciting thing to see. And it also gives you an opportunity to hear this artist for the first time, maybe live, that is. And then there's also the fact that, the halftime show is, for me, something that gives a good break for you to go and, go indulge in maybe some snacks, some food that I'm sure everyone is preparing for their parties, because
What's
I know that's what I do.
Super Bowl food.
Honestly, one of my favorite Super Bowl foods, oh gosh, there's so many, but one that I have every year, not a lot of people have them. They're actually these little mini hot dogs, and you put a little bit of caramelized brown sugar on there, and then you wrap it in a little bit of bacon, and they're
Ooh.
delicious finger foods for the Super Bowl. A lot of people, some people have them, some people don't. It's just kind of what you into. I feel like I know which one is your favorite food, Parker, but I'm curious.
Yeah,
Maybe you'll
I
surprise me.
love my chicken wing dip. It's a very simple recipe, and I make it every year. But no, these two things are why we gather for the Super Bowl. Even if you don't like football, you come for the friends, the food, and sure the football, but the halftime show. This year I believe we have some throwback artists like Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, Kendrick Lamar. I know he'll be there. So if you're into
Eminem, I think,
hip-hop,
is also there.
yeah, if you're into hip hop, this is definitely the halftime show to watch. Taylor, we're going to move on talking about our next thing. What's in it for the players?
Well, first things first here. So, one thing that is in it for the players is the fact that there's monetary value for them in terms of coming into this game, both for the winners and the losers. Okay. Now,
Oh,
obviously, you're thinking, if you're losing the football game, how are you getting money? And how this works is, if you made it this far in the season, you get an incentive bonus where if you win the Super Bowl, you get an extra $150,000. I don't know about you, but I could use an extra $150,000.
that'll be nice right now.
Yeah. And so even if you are in the Super Bowl and you lose the Super Bowl, you still get half of that. So about $75,000 in bonus, which, the way it is for these players, I know it's not a lot for the players per se, but you know what? That's an extra, car or something. I don't know. But
something light like a house.
yeah, exactly. So, but no, in all seriousness, though, like there's monetary value for these players, and obviously they want to be able to also add to their legacy, which is one thing that is an incentive for the players, because having that Super Bowl ring, why do you think Tom Brady is so well known? He has some of the most insane numbers when it comes to winning championships in all sports. Okay.
Even
and
if
so
you don't know football, you know who Tom Brady is.
Exactly. And so like the legacy, the namesake there. And so this is an opportunity for these players to start to build their own legacy and create a little bit of their own little persona. And then on top of that, you also get a nice, pretty nice, hefty piece of jewelry that you get to wear around. And it's worth a pretty penny as well. So that's the Super Bowl ring that every player gets as well. So that's a lot of different incentives when it comes to this game and what the players get to look forward to if they win, or if they win and lose. There's a little bit of incentives with both. So Parker, do you have anything to add?
There's no greater incentive than actually winning. I don't think the players care about the extra thousands of dollars that they're going to get. They want to hoist that Lombardi trophy high and proud, because there is nothing more gratifying and a sense of victory is what it is. You get to lift it, say, I'm better than the rest of you. This is my year, my team. So Taylor, we have one final thing to tell you about fantasy football for dummies. Taylor, we need to answer the question, what happens after the Super Bowl? And it varies depending on who the winner is, but what typically happens?
So obviously, one thing that happens depending on who the winner is, you got parades. All right. So depending on how the Super Bowl goes, you usually have a victory parade of whichever team and whichever city it is that they won. I think that the one that a lot of people remember most recently, at least, is actually the Eagles victory parade, because Jason Kelce had a very big, long, spiel that he went on during the victory parade and, made all sorts of news. But that's one thing that happens afterwards that I know that the players look forward to, because it feels like they're sharing it with the rest of the city, that they worked so hard to, get this championship, because after all, the fans are part of this. It's not just the players that got them this far. Absolutely. Because the fans are like a 12th player out there on the football field at times. So, that's one thing that for the fans you get to look forward to. And then as the players, I know that's something exciting for them. Parker, I know you probably have something else that jumps out at you.
Yeah, even most recently with the Buccaneers last year, they had to take a literal different route. They went in the water, they had a boat tour basically. And it was, that was just such a great time of celebration for them. That franchise had been down in the dumps for a while. Tampa Tom had to come in and sort of resurrect the franchise a little bit. But you probably saw the video of Tom Brady chucking the Lombardi trophy to Gronk or something like that. But no, it's just a great moment, great feel good moment for the players, the owners, the fans, the franchise as a whole. And then after that, players go to vacation. Some of them go to Disney World.
Yeah. And then there's also the fact that it allows the people who are in the organization, so not just the players, but also the coaches and all the various like the general managers and different things like that. It gives them a little bit of a breathing room when it comes to their jobs and their job security moving forward for the next year and years to come. So that's one thing that because after all, like this is what these organizations work towards all year long, is to win the Super Bowl. So if you won the Super Bowl, you did your job that year.
All right, Taylor. This was Fantasy Football for Dummies, brought to you by Fantasy Football in 5. Any final words? I guess this wasn't Fantasy Football for Dummies. This was the Super Bowl for Dummies. I myself made dummies. But any final words for our viewers today?
Well, I know one thing. Make sure to go out there, watch the Super Bowl. I think it's going to be a great game. And then on top of that, make sure you eat some good food while you're doing it, because after all, that's really what the Super Bowl is about. Good food, being around friends, and being able to watch some football. All three of those combined makes for a great time. So go ahead, go enjoy the final culmination of the NFL season. This is what everyone works towards. This is what us at Fantasy Football in 5 have been working towards all season long. So this is going to be our little bit of a victory parade to finish the season off, depending on if you are a fan of one of these teams. And then if not, just enjoy the game. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I guess that's my final words, and good luck to all you guys who are Bengals or Rams fans.
All right, Taylor, thank you once again for joining me. This was Fantasy Football in 5 here on YouTube once again. Just make sure to go check out our podcast on any major platform. It's Fantasy Football in 5. We have a Super Bowl episode coming out with hopefully a guest in the next couple of weeks as well. So a lot of things to look forward to for us. We're going to dive heavy into the offseason, and we'll spoil it right now. We have something very big in the plans coming out to expand our brand. So make sure you follow us on Twitter at FantasyFBall5. That's the number 5 at the end of the handle. Everything you need to know about us will be there. And you need to follow us because I don't want you to miss out on this announcement. So thank you again, once again, Taylor. My name is Parker Neal. This was Fantasy Football in 5.